Have you ever felt close to someone who seemed completely present one day, then unexpectedly distant the next? One day they are warm, caring, and emotionally available. The next they seem quiet, withdrawn, or difficult to reach. It can leave you wondering what went wrong or whether you did something to push them away. But what if that distance is not proof that they care less? What if it is a sign of a struggle happening deep inside them that you cannot see? Stay with me, because what you're about to hear may completely change the way you understand avoidant behavior. One of the biggest misunderstandings about avoidant people is the belief that they do not want love, closeness, or lasting relationships. Many assume they enjoy being alone or simply have no need for emotional connection. The truth is far more complex than that. Most avoidant individuals want love just as much as anyone else. They dream about trust, loyalty, companionship, and building a meaningful life with someone who feels emotionally safe. They want someone they can laugh with, rely on, and come home to. The problem is not the desire for intimacy. The real challenge is that intimacy often wakes up fears they have carried for many years. As someone gets closer, they begin to feel more emotionally exposed. That feeling of vulnerability can activate old emotional alarms that existed long before the relationship even started. Keep watching, because the next part explains why this happens, and it may surprise you. Many avoidant individuals grew up in environments where depending on others did not always feel safe. Their feelings may have been ignored, their emotional needs pushed aside, or their moments of vulnerability met with judgment, criticism, or emotional distance. Over time, they learned an important lesson, even if no one ever said it out loud. Relying on themselves felt safer than relying on other people. Bit by bit, independence became more than a personal strength. It became a shield designed to protect them from disappointment and emotional pain. The difficult part is that the same emotional walls built to prevent heartbreak can also block the deep connection they secretly hope to experience. This is why an avoidant person may begin a relationship feeling excited, interested, and genuinely invested. They enjoy the conversations, the chemistry, the comfort, and the growing bond. Everything feels natural at first, but as the relationship becomes more meaningful, something changes inside them. Suddenly, there is more to lose. The emotional investment becomes real, and with it comes fear. That fear is not always logical, and it is often invisible even to the avoidant person. If you've ever wondered why someone changed after getting closer, the answer may be far different than you imagined. The next part reveals what is really happening beneath the surface. This is often the stage where their partner begins feeling confused and hurt. The avoidant person may ask for more space, become less expressive, take longer to respond, or seem emotionally unavailable. From the outside, it can look like they are losing interest or slowly walking away, but in many cases, the exact opposite is true. The deeper their feelings become, the more emotionally vulnerable they feel, and the more vulnerable they feel, the stronger their protective habits become. Imagine trying to move towards someone while another part of you is pulling hard in the opposite direction. One side wants closeness, affection, and emotional security. The other side keeps whispering warnings to stay guarded, stay independent, and never become too dependent on anyone. Living with that constant inner conflict is exhausting. It creates confusion not only for the partner, but also for the avoidant person themselves. They may care deeply while acting distant. They may miss someone while choosing silence. They may want connection while feeling an overwhelming urge to escape it. If this pattern sounds familiar, don't stop here, because the final piece explains something that many people never fully understand. For many avoidant individuals, the hardest part is that they often cannot clearly explain their own reactions. They know they suddenly feel overwhelmed. They know they need distance to calm their emotions. But finding the right words for those feelings can be incredibly difficult. Sometimes they pull away from people they genuinely love and later wonder why they acted that way. They may feel guilty, confused, or frustrated by their own behavior because it does not always match what they truly feel inside. Their silence is not always a lack of love. Their distance is not always rejection. In many cases, it is simply the only coping strategy they have learned over many years. Yet beneath all those protective habits, the desire for genuine connection never disappears. It stays quietly alive, waiting for a relationship that feels emotionally safe enough to lower the walls little by little. Understanding this does not excuse unhealthy behavior, and it does not mean anyone should accept emotional neglect. But it does help explain why someone can love deeply while still struggling to stay emotionally close. Sometimes the greatest battle is not between two people. It is the silent battle taking place inside one heart, where the longing for connection and the fear of vulnerability fight every single day. Even after pulling away, many avoidant individuals still picture a relationship where they can be completely themselves. They still hope for a bond built on trust, emotional security, and quiet understanding. Deep inside, they wonder what it would feel like to let their guard down without losing the freedom that helps them feel safe. This is something many people misunderstand. Avoidant individuals usually are not afraid of love itself. More often, they are afraid of the pressure that sometimes comes with getting close. There is a huge difference between emotional safety and emotional pressure. Safety gently invites someone to open up. Pressure makes their defenses rise almost instantly. At their core, avoidant people want to feel accepted without feeling controlled, criticized, rushed, or emotionally overwhelmed. They want confidence that their boundaries will be respected rather than challenged. They want closeness to feel like a choice instead of an obligation. When those conditions exist, something surprising often happens. They become far more affectionate, caring, and emotionally present than many people ever expected. Stay with me, because the next part explains why even well-meaning relationships sometimes create the very distance they are trying to avoid. Understanding this small shift can completely change the way you see avoidant behavior. The challenge is that many relationships accidentally create emotional pressure without anyone realizing it. Questions like, "Why haven't you replied yet? Is something wrong?" Or, "Tell me exactly what you're feeling right now," usually come from love, concern, or anxiety. But an avoidant person may hear something very different. Instead of hearing an invitation, they often hear a demand. Instead of feeling supported, they feel trapped. And when someone feels emotionally cornered, the natural reaction is often to step back and create distance. That distance is not always a sign that they care less. In many situations, it is simply their way of managing emotional overload. The harder someone pushes for closeness, the stronger the urge to pull away can become. Pressure rarely creates genuine intimacy. More often, it creates resistance. Trust grows in a completely different way. It grows when someone feels respected. It grows when they feel accepted without conditions. It grows when they believe they can move forward at a pace that feels comfortable instead of forced. If you've ever wondered why giving someone space sometimes brings them closer, keep watching, because the answer is more powerful than most people realize. Simple words can make a bigger difference than many people expect. Saying things like, "Take your time," "I respect your boundaries," or "I'm here whenever you're ready," sends a message of emotional safety. Those words calm the nervous system instead of activating fear. When fear slowly begins to disappear, many of the emotional walls people struggle against start softening on their own. Avoidant individuals often become more communicative, more affectionate, and much more emotionally expressive when they truly feel safe. Not because someone pressured them into opening up, but because they no longer feel the same intense need to protect themselves. At the end of the day, what many avoidant people secretly long for is not endless distance. They want a relationship that feels safe enough for them to stay emotionally close without feeling trapped. Beneath the independence, beneath the hesitation, and beneath every protective wall is often a quiet desire they rarely put into words. They want to love, to be loved, and to believe they can experience both without losing who they are in the process. That quiet hope often remains alive even when their actions seem to suggest otherwise. Trust and pressure create completely different results in every relationship. One invites closeness while the other quietly pushes people further apart. What many people never notice is that avoidant individuals are often looking for small pieces of evidence that intimacy can actually be safe. They quietly watch how someone responds when they need space. They notice whether disagreements turn into criticism or understanding. They pay attention to whether getting close means losing their independence or simply sharing their life with another person. Every patient response matters. Every respectful conversation matters. Every moment where they feel accepted instead of judged becomes another reason to believe relationships can be different from the painful experiences they may have known before. Slowly, their beliefs begin to change. They discover that vulnerability does not always lead to disappointment. They learn that emotional closeness and personal freedom can exist together. They begin to realize that healthy love does not require them to give up their identity. As this understanding grows stronger, intimacy starts feeling less like a threat and more like something worth embracing. If this insight is changing how you see avoidant behavior, the next part may be the most important of all. The need for emotional safety is something every human being shares. But for avoidant individuals, it often becomes the deciding factor between moving closer and pulling away. When pressure increases, fear usually follows close behind. When safety is present, trust has the opportunity to grow naturally. And when trust grows, deeper emotional intimacy becomes possible. Another quiet desire many avoidant people carry is the hope of being understood without constantly being judged. People often focus only on their need for independence while missing what is happening beneath the surface. Many avoidant individuals spend years feeling misunderstood by the people around them. They are often labeled as cold, distant, uncaring, or emotionally unavailable, even though their inner experience can be very different. Many of them feel deeply but struggle to express those emotions in ways others easily recognize. Their silence is sometimes mistaken for indifference when it is actually self-protection. Their need for space is often interpreted as rejection when it may simply be an attempt to regulate overwhelming emotions. Looking beyond those behaviors allows us to see something much more human, a person who still longs for connection but is learning, one careful step at a time, that closeness does not always have to come at the cost of emotional safety. Those labels rarely tell the full story. Beneath the calm or distant appearance is often someone who experiences emotions very deeply but finds it difficult to express them in ways other people quickly understand. For many avoidant individuals, showing emotions has never felt completely safe. Earlier experiences may have taught them that opening up could lead to rejection, criticism, disappointment, or emotional discomfort. As time passed, they became experts at handling everything on their own. Instead of asking for comfort, they learned to rely on themselves. Instead of talking about their fears, they buried them deep inside. Instead of sharing emotional pain, they carried it quietly, where no one could see. After years of hiding those inner struggles, people around them often begin filling in the silence with their own assumptions. A partner sees quietness and believes they no longer care. They notice distance and assume rejection. They witness emotional restraint and conclude there must be no real love. What remains invisible is the battle taking place beneath those actions. Imagine desperately wanting someone to understand you, while also fearing that explaining yourself might only bring more judgment. That inner conflict can be exhausting. Stay with me, because the next part reveals why this silent struggle creates one of the biggest misunderstandings in avoidant relationships. Many avoidant individuals quietly hope someone will understand them without forcing them to explain every emotion they struggle to describe. They often crave understanding far more than advice. They long for compassion more than quick solutions. Deep inside, they want others to recognize the feelings hidden beneath their behavior instead of judging only what they see on the surface. The problem is that those feelings are rarely spoken out loud, so the understanding they hope for often never arrives. Over time, many begin feeling as though they are constantly misunderstood. If they ask for space, they are called distant. If vulnerability feels difficult, they are labeled emotionally unavailable. If they become overwhelmed, others may assume they simply do not care. Every misunderstanding quietly strengthens the belief that opening up will only lead to more disappointment. So the emotional walls grow even higher. What many people fail to notice is that avoidant individuals are often fully aware of these struggles themselves. They know closeness can be difficult. They recognize that they sometimes create distance even when they care deeply. They understand that expressing emotions does not always come naturally. If this sounds familiar, keep watching, because the next insight explains what they often need far more than criticism. Most avoidant individuals do not need constant reminders of what they struggle with. Many have already spent years criticizing themselves in silence. What they often need is someone willing to look beyond the protective behaviors and see the person hiding underneath. Understanding does not mean excusing unhealthy actions or ignoring problems. It does not remove accountability or suggest that difficult behavior should simply be accepted. Instead, it means responding with curiosity before rushing to judgment. It means asking what someone might be experiencing rather than immediately assuming the worst. When an avoidant person genuinely feels understood, something remarkable often begins to change. Their nervous system slowly relaxes. The expectation of criticism becomes weaker. The urge to defend themselves starts fading. That emotional shift creates the foundation where trust can finally begin growing, and trust opens the door to deeper connection. As people begin feeling accepted instead of evaluated, they naturally become more willing to share parts of themselves they once kept hidden. They stop filtering every thought so carefully. They slowly reveal fears they spent years protecting. They begin discussing emotions that once felt impossible to put into words. This process rarely happens overnight, but every small moment of safety becomes another reason to believe that closeness does not always end in pain. At the heart of everything is a simple human desire that many avoidant individuals quietly carry. They want to be seen for who they truly are, instead of being defined by assumptions. Behind the independence, the self-reliance, and the emotional distance is often a deep longing to be known on a much deeper level. They hope someone will look beyond the walls, recognize the fear beneath the withdrawal, and understand that many of those protective habits were shaped by experiences that made emotional safety feel uncertain. When that kind of understanding is offered without judgment, something extraordinary becomes possible. They no longer feel the same need to stay guarded all the time. Instead, they begin experiencing something they may have wanted for years, the feeling of being accepted without constantly having to earn it. That quiet acceptance creates space for trust, and trust creates space for real intimacy. If you're still watching, the next part uncovers another hidden fear that many people never realize avoidant individuals carry deep inside, and understanding it can completely change the way you view their behavior. Another deeply hidden need many avoidant individuals carry is the desire to be loved even with their imperfections. Although they often appear confident, independent, and completely self-sufficient, many secretly worry that if someone truly saw every insecurity, every fear, and every emotional struggle they carry, they might no longer be worthy of love. This fear is rarely obvious because many become extremely skilled at hiding it. They present themselves as capable, strong, and unaffected, while quietly protecting the parts of themselves they believe could lead to rejection. For them, vulnerability feels risky because it exposes the very areas they work hardest to keep hidden. Many learned early in life that mistakes had consequences, weakness was not welcomed, or approval depended on meeting certain expectations. Gradually, they developed the belief that love had to be earned instead of freely received. Because of that belief, they carefully manage how much of themselves other people get to see. They reveal enough to maintain closeness while protecting their deepest insecurities. Yet this strategy carries a painful cost. Even when someone genuinely loves them, they quietly wonder whether that love would remain if every flaw became visible. That question often keeps them emotionally guarded, even inside relationships they deeply value. Their distance is rarely proof that they do not care. More often, it is an attempt to protect themselves from situations where their fears, imperfections, and hidden vulnerabilities might finally be exposed. Ironically, the thing many avoidant individuals fear the most is often the very thing they need the most. They need to experience what it feels like to be accepted without constantly feeling they have to earn that acceptance. They need real evidence that love is not based on perfection, performance, or always staying in complete control of their emotions. At the deepest level, they need relationships that teach them a different message. Your worth is not measured by how flawless you appear. Genuine acceptance changes people in powerful ways. When someone truly feels accepted, the constant urge to stay guarded slowly begins to fade. The pressure to protect a carefully managed image becomes lighter. They no longer feel they must hide every insecurity or cover every weakness. Instead, they begin discovering something many have rarely experienced, being fully themselves. This kind of transformation does not happen overnight. Trust grows one small step at a time, and fears that have existed for years do not disappear in a single moment. But acceptance creates the kind of environment where healing finally has room to grow. Keep watching, because the next example explains why this simple shift can feel life-changing for someone who has spent years expecting rejection instead of understanding. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack filled with every fear, mistake, insecurity, and painful memory you have spent years hiding from everyone around you. You have carried it for so long that you barely remember what life feels like without its weight. Then one day, someone quietly looks at you and says, "You don't have to carry all of this alone anymore." They do not criticize what is inside. They do not shame you for it. They do not walk away because of it. They simply remain beside you. For someone who has spent years expecting judgment, that experience can feel incredibly healing. Many avoidant individuals grow used to believing people will notice their weaknesses before they notice their humanity. They quietly prepare themselves for rejection while secretly hoping someone will understand instead. That is why genuine acceptance feels so powerful. It challenges old beliefs and opens the door to a new possibility. Maybe love does not have to be earned. Maybe being imperfect does not make someone less deserving of connection. If this resonates with you, stay until the end, because the next part reveals how this realization slowly changes everything. Every healthy relationship is built on one simple truth. No one is perfect. Every person carries fears. Every person makes mistakes. Every person struggles in ways others cannot always see. Strong relationships are not created by flawless people. They are built by people who see each other's imperfections and still choose love, respect, and connection. When avoidant individuals experience this kind of acceptance, something inside them gradually begins to shift. The constant need to protect themselves slowly loses its grip. They become more willing to express fears they once kept hidden. They begin communicating needs they once buried in silence. They allow emotions to be seen that they previously believed had to stay hidden forever. They have not become different people overnight. They have simply discovered an environment where it finally feels safe to be genuine. At the heart of all this is a need every human being shares. Everyone wants to know they are lovable despite their flaws. Everyone hopes mistakes will not define their worth. Everyone wants to believe they can be fully seen without being abandoned. Avoidant individuals are no different. Beneath the independence, the emotional distance, and the self-reliance is often someone quietly hoping another person will see every part of them and still decide to stay. When an avoidant person finally realizes that acceptance does not require perfection, it can become one of the most meaningful experiences of their life. Another reason avoidant individuals are often misunderstood is because they seem to want two things that appear to conflict with each other. They long for love, commitment, and emotional closeness. At the same time, they strongly protect their independence, personal freedom, and private space. From the outside, this can look confusing. One day they move closer. The next day they seem to step back and focus on themselves again. Many partners see this pattern as uncertainty or a lack of commitment, but the reality beneath the surface is much more complicated. Many avoidant individuals genuinely want both connection and autonomy at the same time. For them, independence is not simply a preference or personality trait. It became connected to emotional safety very early in life. Long before romantic relationships existed, they learned to solve problems alone, manage difficult emotions privately, and depend on themselves whenever life became challenging. Over time, self-reliance became more than a habit. It became part of their identity. Keep watching, because understanding this can completely change how you interpret their need for space. Because independence became linked with emotional security, Anything that feels like a threat to that independence can create deep discomfort. Yet, despite their strong self-reliance, avoidant individuals still share the same emotional needs as everyone else. They want companionship, trust, support, and meaningful connection. They want someone who truly understands them. The challenge is that their desire for intimacy often collides with an equally strong fear of losing themselves within the relationship. Many quietly worry that becoming deeply connected will eventually require giving up important parts of who they are. They fear losing freedom, daily routines, personal goals, or the identity they worked so hard to build. Some worry commitment might slowly become control. Others fear emotional dependence because it could leave them open to deep pain if the relationship ends. As a result, they constantly try to balance closeness with autonomy. Picture someone reaching toward another person while keeping one foot firmly planted where they stand. They want love, but they also need reassurance that they will not lose themselves in the process. Whenever that balance feels threatened, they may naturally create some distance, not because they want less love, but because they fear losing their sense of self. Their need for space is often misunderstood as rejection, when in reality they may simply be reconnecting with themselves and restoring the independence that helps them feel emotionally secure. Many avoidant individuals quietly believe they must choose between freedom and commitment. The turning point comes when they slowly discover that healthy relationships allow both to exist together, proving that closeness and independence do not have to compete, they can grow side by side. Real intimacy does not erase your individuality. Healthy love is not ownership, it is not control, and it is not about spending every moment together. It is two complete people choosing to build a meaningful relationship while still respecting who they are as individuals. The strongest relationships encourage personal growth, support dreams, respect healthy boundaries, and allow each person to stay true to themselves while growing closer together. That balance is exactly what many avoidant individuals quietly hope to find. Deep down, they are not looking for freedom instead of love. They are looking for a kind of love that allows them to remain free enough to be themselves. Love is strongest when it is freely chosen, never forced. Lasting relationships are not built on pressure, guilt, or obligation. They grow through trust, mutual respect, and the confidence that both people can be authentic without fear. When avoidant individuals slowly realize that commitment does not require giving up their independence, something important begins to change. The fear does not instantly disappear, but it becomes less overwhelming. Their emotional defenses slowly soften, and little by little they become more willing to move toward the closeness they have always wanted. Stay with me, because the next part explains why this realization becomes such a powerful turning point in their lives.